Hello, everybody. Welcome to East 12th Street. Thank you for coming. It's great to see everybody here. Good afternoon. I'm here because I'm passionate about green spaces.
You are.
I'm Max Katz. I'm a lifelong resident of this neighborhood. I'm passionate about green spaces. Public speaking isn't really my forte, so bear with me a little bit. Like I said, I'm a lifelong resident of this neighborhood. My mom and neighbors from the Block Association started a block association in the 1980s to help turn into the thriving community it is today, along with the help of the community gardens next door. I grew up in this park, and I can't remember how many birthday parties I came to here. My favorites were the ones we made piñatas out of paper mache, and every day after school, rain or shine, I could find a soccer game here. In the winter, I knew I could come here and make a snowman and have a snowball fight with my friends. Today, the kids in this neighborhood aren't as lucky. The last time this park had any major investment was in the early 90s. Now, you can't play a game of soccer here. There are no flat surfaces. The surfaces are torn up. My friends who have kids have to watch them super closely to make sure they don't run into any concrete sticking out and hurt themselves. To make sure they don't pick up any plastic flaking off the rubber surfaces and put in their mouths. There's no bathrooms in this park. This community deserves better. We need our parks and community gardens. How much we need them is obvious. Even though this park hasn't been improved in decades, it's still used every day by the community. We meet our friends here, take a pause, take the pulse of our neighborhood, enjoy a breath of fresh air. I want every kid in this neighborhood to enjoy this park the way I did. And I'm honored to introduce the man who is going to help this community get there, Mayor Bill de Blasio. Thank you.
You did pretty good. I think you have a public speaking career ahead of you.
I'm working on it.
Max, Rome wasn't built in a day, but you have started on the journey to public speaking. Thank you. I want to thank Max for talking about this community here in the East Village and what parks mean to people in the community and what they need, and for advocating for the community to make sure that those changes are made. Let's thank Max for all he is doing for the community. Want to thank, first and foremost, the people who make our parks great. There are so many New Yorkers who chip in to help our parks in so many ways, through their own physical efforts, through their donations, through the organizations they put together to help parks. But a special thank you to the people who do the work every day to keep our parks green and beautiful and safe for our kids and safe for everyone. Let's thank all our parks employees for all they do. And thank you to folks who are here who care deeply about this community and do so much. Folks from the Grand Street Settlement, we thank you. The Tenant Association of Compost Plaza and Community Board 3. Let's thank them all for all they do for the neighborhood. So today we announced something called good news. It does still exist in the world, and this is something very good for a lot of neighborhoods and a lot of parks that have not gotten their due. But before I get into the good news, I've got to talk about a situation that we are all feeling so deeply, which is the tragedy in Puerto Rico. And this community in East Village is home to many Puerto Rican New Yorkers, otherwise known as New Yorkers, who deeply, deeply are feeling the crisis in their homeland. And I am having this experience everywhere of people either still trying to contact a loved one, trying to reach their mother, their father, their grandparents. I'm talking to people literally every hour, it seems, who are still searching for someone they love in Puerto Rico to make sure they're okay. But I've also had the joyous experience, including with one member of my team, of getting that call to say they found them. One of my colleagues found her father was safe and sound. And I just want all New Yorkers to feel what Puerto Ricans are feeling right now, the pain on the ground, 3.5 million Americans who have lost so much. I mean, imagine if everywhere didn't have electricity, if roads were not passable, if basic supplies were not available. We experienced some of that after 9/11 in this city. We experienced a lot of that after Sandy in this city, but we're talking all of Puerto Rico has been affected. So there's a lot of pain, there's a lot of confusion, there's a lot of fear, and there are 700,000 people here, proud Puerto Ricans, who are feeling it very, very sharply, very personally. But I made the point earlier this morning, I was up at Abyssinian in Harlem yesterday, and I asked the congregation to raise their hands if anyone had a close personal connection to Puerto Rico or Puerto Rican people, and every hand in the congregation went up, because we're New Yorkers, which means every one of us has a connection to Puerto Rico. So remember why we feel this. Almost 10% of our 10% of our city is Puerto Rican, has family in Puerto Rico. We need to be there. And we need to be there no matter what the federal government does, and we need to push the federal government to do the maximum. We as New Yorkers are going to have to be there for Puerto Rico for a long time. This is an island-wide disaster. There's never been anything like it. We're going to have to be with them shoulder to shoulder for a long time. We in the city of New York are blessed to have the finest first responders anywhere in the nation, the finest professionals working for our city agencies, including people with technical expertise that's desperately needed right now in Puerto Rico. We have been working closely with the city of San Juan, the #1 population in Puerto Rico, to provide that support directly, and of course with FEMA. Our teams that have been sent down under the behest of FEMA continue to grow. Right now there are 58 New York City personnel in Puerto Rico. FEMA has just requested additional personnel to go down immediately, and that is being organized right now. We also have had a very, very powerful response to our call to city employees to volunteer their time to go down to Puerto Rico. We've had a lot of city employees ready to go. Our advanced team from the Office of Emergency Management is setting up an operations center to be able to receive that personnel when the time is right, and we still have more that has to be done to get ready to receive them. But there has been an immense and warm and human response from the people in New York City to the plight of Puerto Rico. Now I want to remind people, we need donations of every kind. So let's talk about charitable donations that are actually the material things that are needed right now in Puerto Rico. And listen, everybody, it's really important. I ask all my colleagues in the media, please differentiate this in your coverage, what Puerto Rico needs right now and what they don't need from us, because there's a division of labor. The federal government, of course, taking the lead on some of the most urgent matters. What is not needed right now is clothing or food for adults. Been a lot of donations of food, a lot of donations of rice, etc. We don't need that right now. We need baby food, but we do not need adult food right now. So here's exactly the 5 things that we're asking New Yorkers to give, and they can give again at 18 EMS stations and firehouses around the city. 5 things: baby food, diapers, batteries, first aid supplies, and feminine hygiene products. I'm going to say it one more time: baby food, diapers, batteries, first aid supplies, and feminine hygiene products. Those are the 5 things we need. They can be dropped off at any of the 18 locations, FDNY locations. To find one, you go on to our website, nyc.gov/locations. Obviously, there's a lot of New Yorkers who want to help financially. You can do that through the Mayor's Fund at nyc.gov/fund. And we ask people to be as generous as humanly possible. And we need to keep the pressure on the federal government. 3.5 million Americans suffering right now in a way that, again, we can hardly think of any parallel. Perhaps Katrina in New Orleans, but the sheer extent of this goes beyond anything we've seen, as if an entire American state was without electricity, without safe passage on roads simultaneously. The New York City congressional delegation understands that aid is needed. It's needed right now. Can't wait. There's been some talk in Washington about taking their time getting the aid package to Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico needs it right now. So I'm calling on President Trump and everyone in the executive branch to expedite aid for Puerto Rico. Remember, Puerto Rico does not have the same government infrastructure that a number of other states in this country have. Puerto Rico needs more help now. We've talked to our team down there. Getting around is very difficult. There are real concerns going forward about law enforcement. These are the areas where the federal government could have a particularly strong impact in securing the roads and making them passable, making sure people are safe. So we're going to continue our efforts, but we have to push Washington to do more. And I should note we will also be looking for every opportunity to help our brothers and sisters in the U.S. Virgin Islands, which were devastated. We want to find ways to help them. Obviously, the situation in Mexico, we're all feeling deeply, and there's almost 250,000 Mexican Americans in this city. So we're going to try and find ways to help everywhere we can, but the sheer intensity and the breadth of what's happening to Puerto Rico demands particular attention. Just a few words in Spanish to summarize. Estamos solicitando ayuda para nuestros hermanos y hermanas de Puerto Rico tras la devastación causada por el huracán María. Necesitamos pañales, comida para bebés, pilas y productos para la higiene femenina y primeros auxilios. Para encontrar un centro de donación cercano, llamen al 311. So, I'm sure we'll talk about that more in a moment, but let me go back to the matter at hand. I want to say a few words, and then you're going to hear from some of my colleagues. So, I thought Max really made clear what a community park means to a neighborhood. It's like one of the centers of life. Birthday parties are held here, and for a lot of families, this is literally where they spend their summer vacation because they don't have the money to get out of town. So right here, so much of what happens, particularly in the lives of our kids, this is where they learn, this is where they grow, and we have to make sure every park gets all the help we can give it, regardless of zip code. Now, we know that wasn't always the case in the past. We know there were some parks that got neglected while others thrived. We need to improve everybody's quality of life. We need to make sure every neighborhood gets help. And we don't accept inequality in any form, including inequality in parks funding. Now, when you invest in a park, it does something big for the whole community. Right here is a great example. This park, as you heard, hasn't gotten serious investment in about 20 years. Needs it. And you can see the kinds of changes that are possible when that investment comes. So that's why we announced the Community Parks Initiative 3 years ago, to focus on parks and neighborhoods that had not gotten their share of investment, and also to focus on places where the need was great, a lot of which are growing communities in this city. So we knew we could take things that are worn down and make them beautiful again, and that millions of New Yorkers would benefit. So today we announce 11 more parks that will be transformed. These are the final 11 in the list of 67 that we started out with when we announced the initiative 3 years ago. So let me just call the roll here. In the Bronx, Prospect Playground and Mapes Ball Field. In Brooklyn, Bartlett Playground, Lewis Playground, Penn Triangle. In Manhattan, Bill Bojangles Playground, Harlem Lane Playground, right here where we are, Joseph C. Sauer Park, and Playground 1. In Queens, Geppetto Square, and in Staten Island, Mariners Harbor Playground. That will bring to 67 the number of parks that are getting this help. Amazing fact, 67 parks, and just in terms of who lives by them, let alone who comes to use them from surrounding areas, these 67 parks Within just a 5 or 10 minute walk of these 67 parks live 500,000 New Yorkers. 500,000 people. So we know we're going to reach a lot of people with this initiative. City spending $318 million on the 67 parks. And I want to thank the City Council and Councilmember Rosie Mendez for her strong support. This, you can clap for her. And just to give you the update, this stuff is happening right now. 5 of the parks in the original list are already transformed and open, and people are enjoying them. 12 more will be done at the end of this year. By the end of 2018, 30, and we'll continue until all 67 are done. And when you go around, this is part of the beauty of City Hall in your borough. When you talk to everyday people, this is exactly the kind of thing they say. I hear it all the time. They care about the big issues, but they also want to make sure that everyday life is better. They want their park to be better for their children. It's one of the most passionate things I hear from my fellow New Yorkers. And we're certainly going to be talking to people all over Manhattan this week. And I know Gail Brewer will be happy to know that 4 of the 11 new sites will be in Manhattan. Yay. There you go. From the Lower East Side to the East 150, so we're covering different parts of the borough. It's time to make sure that every neighborhood gets a fair shake, and that's what this initiative is all about. Few words in Spanish. Mejorar los parques de nuestra ciudad es mejorar la calidad de vida de nuestras familias. Por eso estamos anunciando 11 parques más que serán renovados por nuestra iniciativa de parques comunitarios. Estamos un paso más cerca de tener los parques maravillosos que los neoyorquinos merecen en cada vecindario de nuestra ciudad. With that, the man who makes the magic happen, even though he is not wearing his customary Parks Department polo shirt, I'm a little upset about that, because it's I gotta say, we love all the departments. Parks people, I'm gonna tell you from the bottom of my heart, every department's beautiful, love them all. The coolest polo shirts are the Parks Department ones, though, the most fashionable. Sorry, it's just true. But Mitch Silver has failed to show us that today. Maybe he will do it on another occasion. Commissioner Mitch Silver.
Thank you, Mayor. I think I have a Superman Park shirt underneath, but
That would be very cool, Mitch.
yes,
That would be a good visual for TV.
I'll work on that. So I have my staff getting ready to prepare that shirt. So thank you, Mayor, and thank you all for being here at Sauer Park. This program has really been transformative because, as Max said, this is a well-loved and well-used park. And you can see that it hadn't really seen investment in really a long time. And this is the kind of public space that we would like to see transformed. So there's good news that we're about to transform this space that really serves the community's needs. What you're looking at is Van Alt's Playground in Astoria, Queens, the first of the Community Parks Initiative that's been transformed. You'll see to my far left what it looked like before the transformation, and now with vibrant colors and new places where people could enjoy of all ages. I'm told from the mothers in Astoria, this is now their most favorite destination park to go to, and now it is bringing so many great memories to so many in that neighborhood. Like all of us, and like Max, I grew up in New York City parks. I learned to run there. I had my first date in a park. In fact, the mayor got married in a park. There's something that we say, if your first date or you get married in a park, your marriage will last longer. Right. So just look for those parks to enliven your lives. But there's no question that we now have an opportunity to make sure that all New Yorkers have access to a quality park. Our neighborhood parks are more than just green spaces. There are living rooms, our front porches, our backyards, out town squares. It's where people come to connect and really have lifelong friendships. That's why Mayor de Blasio's vision for park equity, the Community Parks Initiative, is what it's all about. These bottom-up Community Parks Initiative renovations will bring new parks, playgrounds from their foundation and make these incredible public spaces for people of all ages. These are not just for children and families, but for our seniors. We want them to age gracefully in New York City. It is so important. So I can't wait to get started and to learn what the Community Park Initiative can do for this next round of 11. I enjoy redesigning. I'm even looking at this beautiful tree, which is really, in my opinion, one of the centerpieces of this public space. Is that correct, Max? It is. So we're now going to have a public scoping meeting and community visioning to really work with the community for this park and all the other parks to help realize what this park can be for this community. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mitch, wonderful presentation. Please dress appropriately for the occasion next time. And now, she's going to make sure all week long that I do good things for Manhattan or else. The Borough President of Manhattan, Gail Brewer.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and I want to second everyone's love of the parks, and it's great to be here for the Community Parks Initiative. I think the other thing that's great about the Parks Department, not unique, but often, is the scoping sessions. You talked about doing one here, but with CPI projects elsewhere, we have been at all the scoping sessions. I've been to them, and I know staff has, and that's what the community, how the community gets involved, the community board gets involved, and it really makes a big difference. And it's another reason why parks is so great in Manhattan. I do want to thank Castro and Simon. That would be Bill Castro and Steve Simon from the Manhattan office, because you do a great job. And I also, Rosie knows her community better than anybody, and so does the community board, but I have to say the parks and the community emphasis in the Lower East Side is unique and special. And I know Charles is here from Lungs and La Plaza, and there are many other people who love this community. And I also want to thank you, Mr. Mayor, because when you were talking about building housing, I think maybe pressure from the Lower East Side, none of the parks were on the housing list. And they're a very controversial topic, but that's kind of my specialty, controversial topics. And I really appreciate the fact that the community gardens remain, because they are such a part of this community. So thank you for that. And it's great to have the Sauer Park here for the announcement, because I believe, and Susan, who's like the institutional memory, I'm the institutional memory elsewhere, but you're the institutional memory here. It's kind of nice to be old and have institutional memory sometimes. But I think that some of the people who helped keep this park going in the 80s and 90s were members of the community board. And again, a nice, wonderful collaboration between the community and the Parks Department. So it's 25 years later from 1993 when the playground opened, and this investment is particularly special because it can be done in an even better way, and because the Parks Department does listen to us. So we are, this initiative builds partnerships, park programming, and it is very sustainable. That's what the Parks Department does. I have to say, in our park is a great day for New Yorkers. I want to thank the mayor and the Parks Department, but more importantly, the people of the Lower East Side for understanding this.
All right, well, we're going to ask our last two elected officials, last three elected officials, to be as loud as possible. First, representing us in the state senate, and he has been a crucial ally in terms of making sure that New York City is treated fairly up in Albany, and that includes funding for so many things in the community. Senator Brad Hoyle.
State Senator Brad Hoyle is proudly representing this neighborhood. I really couldn't put it better than what the borough president said. You know, that expression, fences make good neighbors. Well, parks make better neighbors. And we see that time and time again throughout my Senate district. It's not just mothers who like parks. I have a month-old baby, and let me tell you, I'm spending a lot of time in the park, meeting my fellow parents and relearning how to parent since it's been 6 years since I had my first. But thank you, Mr. Mayor, for this initiative. It's going to go a long way toward improving the quality of lives for many, many, many New Yorkers, including my family. Thank you.
Well done.
Oh, and let's give another round of applause for Councilmember Rosie Mendez for really putting the heart and soul into the East Village. Thank you.
Well done. Well done. Well, Brad, I thought your statement was very clear and eloquent. If ever Brad says something that doesn't make sense, remember he has a 1-month-old baby and probably hasn't slept in a long time.
Were you suggesting something?
No, I said this was good this time. You did. I'm giving you some room for next time. Assemblymember Brian Kavanaugh, we have called him so many times looking for help on so many things in Albany. He has answered the call every single time and done it so well. This is not a political event. I just will say I look forward to the day when I get to call Brian Kavanaugh by a different title and look forward to the great work he will do up ahead. Assemblymember Brian Kavanaugh.
Thank you. Glad to have the mic. First of all, I'd just like to begin by echoing something the mayor began with. You know, this is a community where we are painfully aware of what's going on in Puerto Rico, and I just want to thank the mayor for putting not only our thoughts behind that, but enormous commitment of the city's resources, and that needs to continue. So thank you, Mr. Mayor, for that. I would also note that for the locals, one of those donation centers is the Firehouse on 2nd Street, just east of Avenue B. So they are up and running from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. every day, taking donations of the kind that the mayor mentioned. On this parks thing, I mean, we here today are celebrating something in really the best place to celebrate the value of local green spaces anywhere in the city. We all love, as New Yorkers, our destination parks, our marquee parks like Central Park. We have a new destination park in recent years in this community along the East River, which brings people from all over the city. I have recently had opportunity to get an increasing awareness of the joys of Brooklyn Bridge Park in another capacity. But this is a community that for many, many years has insisted that we have local green spaces. We've done it by taking back rubble-strewn lots and turning them into community gardens. We've done it by supporting our local parks, even after in many, many years of where the resources weren't there. I was very proud to be with the mayor when he announced this community initiative. A lot of us trekked out to Queens to a neglected park out there. It is great to see it to come to fruition. It's great to see, in particular, for it to come to fruition with a great new addition and refurbishment of this park. So thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you everyone in this community that has stayed with this for so long.
So, long time ago, when I went to college at NYU, very close to here, I had a classmate, and we were very much cut from the same cloth, and who knew that we would both end up in public office. But she has done a great job. She's a true voice of the community and has been someone who really represents what the grassroots feel, and that's been an important and powerful mission in her work in the City Council. And we will miss you as your term comes to an end, but congratulate you on a great, great job in the City Council. Councilmember Rosie Mendez.
Good afternoon, everyone. For those of you who may not have heard, I'm term limited. And this was a project that had been on my list for quite a while. But, you know, in government, we always have to triage. So I've had to, during the years, sitting at the table with the Manhattan Commissioner, Bill Castro, and Steve Simon, make decisions, and I had money in this park, and I had to move it. So one of my biggest things that I was going to regret leaving office was that I was not going to be able to fix this park. But I wasn't really that concerned about it, because Carlina Rivera, our Democratic nominee and my friend, I put it on her list. So check it off now. So this is one of a couple of things that really wanted to do. It will get done. This is really incredible. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's long overdue. And look, before coming here, I went to one of the other parks that was renovated under CPI over at Soul Lane. And last month I was at Henry Jackson, Madison, just name all the presidents from long ago, not recent, that park. And this morning I went to see Soul Lane, and they are beautiful. And the community is excited. They're already giving me the punch list, so I'll get that to you guys. But that's what it is. We are vigilant. We love our community. We do a lot of work. And then we make sure that we have something for the next generations. Max, you really outdid yourself, dude. So it's wonderful to have a son of the Lower East Side who grew up in this park come here and give the opening remarks. I'm very proud of you. I'm very proud of my neighbors who fought to maintain this park. And Max's mom.
Max's mom.
And this really has been everyone's hard work. But just to make it fun, we're going to have some meetings, and you're going to have to come, and you're going to have to tell us what you want. I want to give a shout out to my co-leader and friend, Anthony Feliciano, who's here. His son uses this park during the school day, so he'll be coming to these meetings. Or actually, you'll bring Nicholas to the meetings. He goes to the scoping meetings. You met him at a prior meeting.
Pretty precocious kid. He's going
Yes.
to the scoping meetings.
Yes, he's going, and you know he's actually touring all the parks and giving me which is his best parks in the district. So thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. Our community is very happy, and I look forward to coming back when we're doing the ribbon cutting and having Max cut that ribbon. Thank you very much.
So let's first take questions about the Community Parks Initiative, and then we'll go from there. Any questions about this announcement today, the new parks? Yes.
You said 318 million, previously 285 million for all 67. Has there been an increase?
Well, we make adjustments as we actually experience the real cost. Mitch, is that the simple answer? That's the simple answer. So the original was the projection. As we have proceeded with it, cost has gone up. Obviously, it's a meaningful amount of money, but we think it's a fair amount for what we're achieving. Yes, sir.
Is the park be entirely closed? How long are we going to be?
Excellent question. So, starting in 19, done in 20. Is that what you said? Physical work in 19, done in 20.
Correct. The physical work will start in about 19 and be completed in 2020. We have a community visioning meeting. That's what we call scoping. It's very likely in almost all cases the entire park is transformed and will be closed during that time. We try to minimize it to less than 12 months, but the answer is most likely yes, the park will be closed during that period.
This, yeah.
Given the adjustment in funding, have you included the future sites in those projections of the 318 million, or do you expect the price will go up again when you identify?
Well, one, that's the adjusted amount right now. We, each year in the budget process, look, now, here's what we find. Sometimes, it's not shocking to anyone, prices for a project go up. Sometimes we find ways to save money. Sometimes a project takes longer and therefore it gets stretched out over a longer period of time, and that changes how we budget by year. So it's a natural thing we do each year in the budget process to make those adjustments. Let's see if there's anything else on this. I want to go to Puerto Rico next. We're taking media questions. Media? Yes.
Just one question.
Media question? Okay, just taking media questions right now, but be happy to see you after. Media questions first on the parks. Just want to see if there's anything else on the parks. Now let's just take Puerto Rico questions, and then we'll go to other topics. Yes?
Is there anything the city's doing to prepare for maybe, I guess, more Puerto Ricans coming to New York to stay with relatives, like any services that would be offered?
Yeah, it's a great question. So there's no way yet to know what that number may be, but I think it's absolutely right to assume that there will be a substantial number of Puerto Rican families coming here because they have family ties here and places hopefully they can stay. We can't project yet. I would be surprised if that was less than, the thousands. The first things for families, obviously our public schools are ready to receive any children who come. But the thing I spoke with Deputy Mayor Blasio, she raised this morning, people come up and have particular healthcare needs, especially healthcare needs that may have been exacerbated by this crisis. Health and Hospitals Corporation is going to take a lead on that. So our team that is down there now that has set up an operations center will be relaying back to us If there's particular situations where our help is needed in terms of healthcare and folks who need to come up here for healthcare, and we will be working to accommodate them through health and hospitals, in some cases through the private hospitals, depending on the need. But I think you're right to ask the question, because I assume this is going to be a major area where we can help Puerto Rico, but I think it's also several weeks away in many cases because people still can't even get around normally to be able to relocate for any period of time. Yes?
I wonder what your team is telling you as far as what the federal government should be doing right now that is limited and is not doing. The main concern, the lack of electricity, the whole entire island.
Right.
Are engineers there that you know of?
I don't have enough of a sense of specifically which personnel are there through FEMA and the federal government. I think the point is, one, the aid package should be approved as rapidly as possible. It was a very good thing that aid for Texas, for example, was agreed upon quickly, and that's largely due to the good work of Senator Schumer. Quite in contrast to the debates that happened after Sandy, which you remember were tortured. I think what we feel as New Yorkers is one for all for one. You know, if Texas is in trouble, if Florida's in trouble, if Puerto Rico's in trouble, get them an aid package, get it to them quick, just like we would expect for New York. We want it for everyone treated equally. So that's what I'd like to see first. A substantial dollar figure agreed to and earmarked for Puerto Rico immediately. That's going to open up the possibility of more action. In terms of any of the personnel, the equipment, et cetera, first blush, we've seen some very good efforts from the federal government and from FEMA. Want to see those deepen and speed up. The electrical situation is obviously beyond anything that anyone's seen anywhere. I have a decent memory of history. I can't remember any other time that effectively something the size of a state all knocked out, this severely. So I don't think there's precedent for this, but we're going to push very hard to make sure that that material help is there as well. See, anything else on Puerto Rico? Yes, Gloria.
Mr. Mayor, do you have any plans to travel to the island? The speaker's been down to government.
Yes. Well, I'll announce it if I do. Right now, no. I'm staying by the same exact thought that I offered to you the other day. We want to help in every way possible. Been in touch with our colleagues down there. Right now, the aid we're sending is what they're asking for. We have a lot more work to do to get more aid down. That's where I'm going to keep my focus. And if it makes sense at some point to go down so I can help in a particular manner, I will. But right now, the focus is here. Anything else on Puerto Rico before? Yes, sir. On Puerto Rico first before we go to any other topics. Media question. Media. Yes, sir.
Can you elaborate a little bit more exactly what's the mission and what the personnel from New York are doing there? And have you got any feedback from them? How bad is it there for them?
Yeah, no, I've definitely gotten feedback from our folks down there. I mean, everyone's horrified. It's widespread destruction and dislocation. Thank God at this point the loss of life has not been much worse, but that's still a lot of places that have not been gotten to yet, so we fear something worse. But I think it's the sheer breadth and magnitude of this that's so shocking, that so many roads are impassable, so many electrical lines down, electrical service out. Folks literally can't communicate. There's a gas shortage, there's a food shortage, there's a water shortage. I mean, it's just total. So our folks have said very clearly there's endless need, and the most important thing is to create the conditions to receive a lot more help, but that will take a lot of work to organize. We have two elements. The biggest is the urban search and rescue teams, directed by FEMA. That totaled between 30 and I think 35, the original group. FEMA's asked for more. We're waiting for an exact number. We'll get that next group down probably next 48 hours. Separately, the effort we have mounted with the city of San Juan, which desperately needs help, and we have sent Office of Emergency Management personnel to help them set up their emergency work and receive support from New York City, and that will be supplies, that will be our personnel. But everyone is dealing with such a total crisis that they literally have to take one step at a time. There was a period of time where the aid teams were held while the airport was fixed, because when flights started to go in with aid, the airport's structural damage became evident. They had to stop for a while they fixed it to be able to take more flights in. So everything's interconnected, and it's going to take a series of steps to really be able to receive aid on a large scale. See, anything else on Puerto Rico first? Okay, any other topics? Yes, sir.
Your response, two questions. One, the Anthony Weiner sentencing, and also...
Let's just stay on that first. It's very, very sad. It's a human tragedy for his family, for him, and someone who, at one point, I think had a lot to offer in public service. But I also think it's time for us all to just stop talking about it. I honestly believe it. It's over. He's been sentenced. Let's leave his family in peace, and let's go on. I really feel that.
President Trump's remarks about the NFL players and all those SOBs fired.
Yeah.
Can you weigh in on this?
That's totally unacceptable. And, he doesn't ever think about the power of his words and the horrible impact his words often have. But, as someone said the other day, he just insulted the hardworking, decent, good mothers of all these athletes who work so hard to get to where they got. And it's incredibly hard to be a professional athlete. And that humanly is unacceptable to begin with. But second, this is about the right to free speech in this country. And as a lot of you know, I'm a New England Patriots fan, and one of my friends up there was at the game, and he was distressed that some fans did not respect the right to protest. And he said, this is the place where the Sons of Liberty were originally. In Massachusetts is where the American Revolution began, largely on ideas like the right to free speech and the right for everyone's views to be respected, and that arbitrary authority could not tell people what to think. So I think it's just inappropriate for the president to say the things he said. And I think the NFL has stood up to him, which is right. And we've seen a lot of solidarity for the right of these players to speak their minds. I've said openly, I would not do it the same way personally. When I want to see a lot of change in this country too, I think these players want to see real change in this country. I think they're motivated by heartfelt desire to see change. I want to see change too. My personal approach is different. I believe in saluting the flag while working on that process of change. But I will defend 100% their right to express their views. That is as American as it gets. Grace?
Tomorrow, I believe, is the deadline for city lawyers to file an appeal brief in the agents of the city lawsuit. And I know you've spoken about this before, but I'm wondering, I assume you're intending to appeal the judge's earlier decision.
Everything is continuing as it was.
And can you explain why, when oil experts, lawyers, the government wants to look at
I've explained it many times.
why not turn those...
I've explained it many times, but the legal guidance said that what we were doing is appropriate. We stand by it. Yes?
The city's DNA database has grown significantly the last couple of years. Why is the city keeping the DNA of people not convicted of crimes?
I'm not familiar with how the database is kept. I'm happy to look into it, but I'm just not familiar with the details of it, but we can come back. Again, not knowing the details, I don't want to comment, but I'd be happy to look into it and have an answer.
Mr. Mayor, the City of London is pulling Uber's right to operate there. Is there any chance New York City is going to follow suit? And are you happy with how Uber's operating here, or what's your...
Well, it's separate. There's several parts to that question, so Rich, let me try and pull apart the pieces. I have always had concerns about Uber, as you know, and I was very disappointed in the way Uber handled a number of issues in the last couple of years. And I think the board was right to remove the CEO and to start a process of change. We are working with the entire for-hire vehicle industry to try and create fairer rules on a host of fronts: disability access, fair treatment for workers, consumer rights, a whole host of things. We're going to try and create a uniform approach. So I'm not familiar with the details of what London has done. I have a lot of respect for Mayor Sadiq Khan in London, but I don't know the details. I will say we're trying to figure stronger and better rules for our whole for-hire vehicle industry as we go forward. Way back.
From the latest Trump travel ban?
It's got the same problem as the original travel ban. It is treating people the same regardless of their personal details. the fact is, security experts will say, and I've had this conversation with our own security experts here in the city, you don't ban people based on where the country they come from or the faith. You ban them based on some specific fact in their life that makes them a threat. So again, it's the same problem over and over again, and it's not going to make us more secure, in my view, and it's also going to mean a lot of people should have had a right to be here won't. Willie.
On the question of the NFL protests, Nicole Malliotakis, who's running against you for mayor, put out a statement yesterday saying President Trump is right. The NFL should fire or fine those who disrespect both our flag and the millions of fans who pay their salaries. I'd like you to address specifically her jumping into this issue.
I just disagree with the Assembly member. I think it's a misreading of the American right to free speech. I just don't think it's right to say that people who are acting out of honest political conviction should be penalized in that way. They're athletes. They are choosing to express a concern that many of them have experienced personally and their families have experienced, meaning the challenges that have existed between police and community. And I just think it's irresponsible to call for that.
She said specifically that it's improper for somebody to express their political views in their workplace. Somebody who worked with her today mentioned to me or raised the issue that they had said that you at one point said it was inappropriate for police to protest something political during their work time.
Apples and oranges if ever I've heard them. Public employees across the board are not allowed to express personal partisan views while doing their work in public service. It's the nature of public service. It's part of what everyone agrees to when they engage in public service is it must be politically neutral. That is very different than a private citizen, an athlete choosing to express their views. Yes.
In the last month or so, you've held up the school construction authority a couple of times as a contrast to the MTA
yes.
as far as efficient capital construction, but your own mayor's office of operations has said that they're actually quite over budget on a lot of their big projects, to the tune, if you add it all up, adds up to more than $300 million. So I'm wondering about the discrepancy between what that office is.
Again, I would say apples and oranges. There's not a discrepancy. Some projects legitimately require more money. It's just a part of the reality of building a lot of things, especially a lot of things quickly, which the SCA has done. I want to remind people with the SCA, we have asked them to do a huge school building and renovation program, which they were doing very well and very quickly. We then asked them to do a whole lot more to increase the number of school seats available in this last capital budget, which they took on willingly. We asked them to greatly expand pre-K capacity, which they did on time with each of the tranches of pre-K developing. And we turned around and said, we need you now to create a full-blown 3K program, which they're doing. And we said, we need you to put air conditioning in every classroom in New York City that doesn't have it. And they're doing that too. So we keep throwing more and more work on the SCA, and they keep doing it and doing it well. But sometimes specific projects cost more than originally anticipated for perfectly legitimate reasons. Now, look, we'll always look to see if we think there's a specific thing we need to do better. There's no question about that. But when you think of the billions and billions of dollars they spend and spend well, I'm very satisfied with their efficiency, and I think it is night and day from the reality with the MTA, particularly historically. Gloria.
Mr. Mayor, I was wondering if there's anything you're doing to help convince Amazon to come to the city, and I wanted to ask you if you'd be willing to offer any kind of incentives, and if you think that they should come here.
I do think Amazon should come here. I think Amazon would do very well in New York City, and I think New York City would greatly benefit from Amazon's presence. And we were thrilled that Amazon already separately decided to move several thousand jobs here, some of their professional jobs, because they realized this was the right environment that they wanted in terms of being able to get great personnel, keep them, and being able to connect to so many other industries are here. So that's a really good sign that even as they embark on their process of determining their second headquarters, they proactively decided to move several thousand professional employees here. So I think we have a lot to offer them. We're going to work very hard at it. I expect to meet with Amazon leadership. We've already started to set that up. We're going to make a strong proposal. We're going to show them different parts of the city that could work in a single campus or multiple pieces. I think we have a lot to offer. We, as you know, do not believe in the traditional forms of subsidy. There are some state subsidies that are available. There are some specific things by law that anyone would be allowed to tap into, but we will not provide the traditional add-on economic subsidies. That's not something we believe in. Yes?
Mayor, do you order from Amazon or you do brick and mortar?
What do you think, Rich? Okay, Rich, I am sick of that kind of question. What do you think? Do you not know me by now? I have never ordered from Amazon. Now, it's no disrespect to Amazon. God bless Amazon. I believe in bricks and mortar. Yay. Thank you, Gail. Yay. That's my semi-annual praise from Gail Brewer. It's I understand the efficiency of it, and I am not speaking for the First Lady who uses all methodologies. But no, I personally just like the experience of going into a store, choosing something myself, having the physical opportunity to see what the thing looks like. So, but I understand why Amazon would be so important in New York City, and I certainly want to see them come here and thrive here. Yes?
President Trump said that his comments about the NFL were really during national anthem won't come out because of respecting the flag.
Really? No? Yes? Race has something to do with almost everything Donald Trump says. When are we going to get this through our heads? It's pretty clear. I have said he's a racist before. I'll say it again. There's this kind of sick term we use, dog whistling, when people use coded racial language. He doesn't bother with the coding a lot of times. He just goes right to it. And that's true. There's a really interesting analysis I recommend to everybody in Politico, looking at the roots of Donald Trump's overt racism back in the 70s and 80s and the way he handled things in New York City, including the Central Park Five. It's not even close. So yeah, of course that's part of what's going on here. And it's sad. And I don't think it's going to work. I mean, I think his concept is this Steve Bannon-inspired incessant interest in a narrow political support base. That sadly, a lot of whom want to hear that. That's not the majority of Americans. That's not the swing voters. I mean, it's a ridiculous, morally unacceptable and ridiculous political strategy, but he's going to do it over and over and over again. And yes, that's what's happening here. Yes?
Just to clarify on Amazon, you're saying that your wife does order from Amazon, so your family...
Oh, yeah.
Amazon.
I believe she does.
You make goes to Amazon.
Sure. I wasn't suggesting otherwise. Our question was, do I personally order from Amazon? No, it's not a diss on Amazon. It's I like traditional stores. Shirlane, you'll have to ask her separately from whom she orders, but I do believe she orders from Amazon, among others.
Have you ever bought anything online?
Yes.
What?
Baseball tickets. I'm very proud of this fact. I went to the first World Baseball Classic in San Diego, and I bought those tickets online because I wanted to be part of a new thing. Just tell me how many people you've met who've been to the first World Baseball Classic in San Diego. Trivia question. Okay. Any other question? Going once. Going twice. Rich. Close us out, Rich.
Yeah.
You're supposed to say, have you ordered from Amazon?
No.
Yeah, Rich, have you ordered from Amazon? Okay, my brother.
You know what? My question's been answered, actually. I'm good.
I appreciate that question. Thank you, everyone.